Well, happy Friday to everybody. Hope you're having a good Easter. Going to get time to spend with your family and friends and whoever else is important to you. This election cycle or this signature drive is a lot different than it was last year. We've witnessed many more things happening, both federal government, Alberta, even things happening now that are coming to light within the UN. This is going to be probably the most important time of our lives. And we do have some decisions to make here. And that decision is whether you want to do something about what we see happening around us today, or are you content just to sit back and let things happen as they will. I've got a lot of things to talk about. I'm not going to talk about all of them here. I'm going to break them down into a series of videos. And I'm going to be wearing two hats while I do it. I'm going to be speaking both on behalf of the Western Independence Party of Alberta and, of course, our national party as well, because really the meaning holds true for both parties, and we need support from everybody. We have entered very troubling times. For those of you that pay attention to the news, we see daily our rights are being eroded, and our politicians stand by and do nothing. Now, don't get me wrong. I know many of the politicians that are in the arena today. I know them personally. I've known them for years. But I'm disappointed in how none of them seem to be stepping up to the plate and doing their job. And their job is to represent us, you, me, and every taxpayer that pays their wages. Why don't they do that? Now, today, this afternoon, I'm going to talk about one topic that I think everybody, especially in Alberta, needs to know what's happening or needs to think about. And it's part of the half-truth that we hear from our politicians. Now, the one thing that I'm concerned about, and I've talked to people about this, is I call it the elephant in the room. I want people to think for a second what's happening in Ontario. Ontario is into a debt crisis. They're well over $300 billion in debt. They're looking at possibly as much as another $20 billion to be added to that this year. They are broke. They are the most heavily in-debt sub-sovereign nation in the world. And yet they continue to function and they continue to run up their debt. Eventually that has to be paid. Debt is not something that goes away. Anybody who's got a credit card, a mortgage, anything, you know it has to be repaid. If not, then there's only one other repercussion. And what you have, you lose. Moving forward with that, what is going to happen? Has anybody thought what's going to happen? Why are our, let's say, Alberta politicians not concerned about this? This should be something that they should be talking about. When Ontario goes broke, they are broke. When they officially announce that they're broke, who's going to pay that $300 billion debt? Really, there is only one place they can turn to in Canada to get that money to help them out of that mess. Unfortunately, that's Alberta. And if you don't think that they're going to come looking, you're sadly mistaken. A politician has one job, one priority, that is. One number one priority is to be re-elected. They don't get re-elected by making their constituents mad. They get re-elected by garnering the popular vote. When Ontario fails and things turn miserable and ugly, you are going to see the people in the 905 and the 416 area code screaming for something to be done. And if the sitting Prime Minister won't do it, they will elect one that will. And what's going to happen is they're going to focus on the Alberta resource industry, the $1 trillion resource industry in Alberta, And if you think the carbon tax is bad, wait till they start inventing things like Syncrude smoke tax or whatever they come up with. We are going to pay for that. And anybody who thinks that we aren't is sadly, sadly mistaken. And I would like to hear from anybody who thinks we aren't going to pay for that and why we're not going to pay for that. So that takes me to my second question here, or I guess my primary question. What is any politician in Alberta, provincial politician, going to do to stop this? Alberta politicians cannot stop federal politicians. What the federal government decides to tax, they tax. Sure, we can take them to court, but then other incentives, other benefits we have that comes from the government, they get canceled. We have no choice. I'm sorry, people, to say, those my age, even younger, that grew up through the 60s, the 70s, right up till now. Canada is not what you grew up in. Things change with time, and unfortunately this country has changed. We are now a country run by socialists with a socialist agenda, and wealth in Alberta is not going to be permitted. We're never going to have control of our resources. We are never going to aspire to what we can be as long as we remain under the rule of Ottawa and controlled by the people in the 905 and the 416 area code, many of them who have never been to Alberta. You need to think about this, and you need to think hard. We need everybody's support. We need you to log on to our pages. We need you to sign the Western Independence Party of Alberta signature sheet. We need to get people into the legislature here in Edmonton. We need to get support for our national party so we can get together, start bringing people together in Canada. Without you, this is going to die, and if this dies, so does the way of life that you've known and grew up with. And I feel sorry for your grandkids and all their grandkids to follow. Thank you.